So this is our fifth session for our um, Friday night discussion on the 15 invaluable laws of growth. So for tonight, we're going to talk about the law of consistency, which says motivation gets you going, but discipline keeps you growing. Now, I'd like to start this topic by showing you how important the law of consistency is. So, as you probably know, the author of the book that we're studying is John Maxwell. In one of his talks that I listened to, he was talking about the law of consistency. And he mentioned that out of the 15 laws that his book um, um, mentions, and as he introduced the 15 laws, the law of consistency is actually the most significant to him. Isn't that interesting? So if you're here, if you're attending our session, it would be interesting to note that the author himself has recognized that the law that we are going to talk about tonight is the most significant to him. So you're not wrong in attending tonight's session. Now, he has two reasons for saying that the law of consistency is most significant to him. First, he said that this is the law of consistency is significant to him because he continues to do it. That means even at his age, I think he's around in his 70s now, he still continues to do and practice the law of consistency. And second, I think this has really impressed me that he mentioned that the key to his success was actually consistency. So I think this is a good introduction of what we're going to talk about tonight because no less than the author himself has just disclosed or has just revealed the secret of his success. And the secret of his success is his consistency. Okay, so let's dive into this. Now, of course, you have your workbook there. You need to answer some words or phrases. So for your convenience, I already underlined the answer. So all you have to do is copy them in your workbook. So our first topic is how to grow in consistency. So how do we grow in consistency? It is very important that we understand, okay, the principle or the law of consistency. So the first question is, do you know what you need to improve? Okay, if I'm going to ask you that question tonight, do you know what you need to improve in your life? Of course, Maxwell would say you must develop yourself to be successful. Now, I mentioned to you, I think in our sessions several weeks back, about the four areas where Maxwell um, intentionally not only planned, but he intended to grow. And in fact, eventually he turned it into a book. By the way, Maxwell was able to write 100 plus books and sold more than 28 million copies of his books. So he was able to convert this into a book entitled How to Be a Real Success. Now, you might be wondering what's real. So I think I mentioned this to you previously that the word real is, or the word real, or the acronym stands for R, relationship, E, equipping, A, attitude, and L, leadership. So these are the four areas that he wanted to grow. Of course, you cannot grow in every area because you have to um, prioritize. So for him, it's about relationship. So as a husband, as a father, as a grandfather, as a friend. So he really wants to keep his relationships successful. And I think it makes a lot of sense because, as we said, when your relationships stink, your life stinks, right? That means even if you're rich, even if you have so much wealth, if your relationship is a mess with your spouse, with your kids, with your family, I don't think you will have a happy life. So he wanted to grow in that specific area of his life, relationships. And secondly, he wanted to grow in equipping. That means how um, remember the definition of a leader. A leader is a person of value who values others and who adds value to others. So it's about adding value to others. How can I invest in others? How can I add value to them? It's not just about me getting all the improvements. I'm becoming more and more valuable as a person, but me being valuable and adding value to others, and then attitude, and then leadership. So he was considered as he's considered as a leadership guru. That's why, because he grew in these four areas. I also shared to you mine, I think, in the first few sessions that we had. And also, I tried to use an acronym, and the acronym is SHARE. So I wanted to grow in five areas, like S is for spiritual. So, of course, we need to grow spiritually, growing more and more closer and more intimate with the Lord, and loving him more so that we can serve him more effectively. And H is for health, because I told you once you reach this age, okay, in your 50s, you really have to prioritize what you do with your health will impact you 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the line. And then A is for attitude. Of course, we still want to maintain the right, positive, spiritual, biblical attitude. And then R is for relationship, and E is for equipping. Now, what about you? Do you know what you need to improve in your life? So I think this is not a waste of time. Why we have to repeat this question, because many of us must probably have forgotten about this already. So we go back, or maybe this is your first time to attend our sessions. What do you know what you need to improve in your life? I don't um, I wouldn't require you to come up with an acronym also, but it helps, right? And it doesn't have to be many. In fact, I think five is too many already. So you can even trim it down into two or three where you intend to grow and where you intend to improve this year, or in the next 2 years, or the next 5 years. All right. So know what you need to improve. Okay. Let's proceed to the next slide. The second one is, do you know how you are supposed to improve? It's not just the question what you need to improve, but how you're supposed to improve. Now, when I was in first year college, I can still remember one of the topics that I really caught my interest is it was Pastor Tabuena, our professor then in Bible college, when he talked about the different temperaments or the different personalities. That's the first time I was introduced to these different personalities: the choleric, the phlegmatic, the melancholic, and the sanguine. Now, we're not gonna go into the details of these different personalities or temperaments or personality types. You can research on this if you're not yet familiar with these different personalities. But our goal for tonight is for you to know. Okay, now I'd like to also say that you are not, say for example, you are a choleric. You're not just 100% choleric. You may be a combination of different uh, personality types or temperaments, but one of this is more dominant in your personality. So the goal is for you to understand, what's my personality type? Okay, what's my temperament? And using that as a tool to know how you can better motivate yourself. Make sense? So not all forms or all ways of motivation can work for everybody. So there's no one size fits all motivation that can motivate everyone. It really depends on your personality, on your personality, or we call it temperament. Say, for example, one of our examples here is the choleric. So these are the type A personality. Okay. These are the strong-willed. Okay. These are the leaders. Okay. But they also have weaknesses. Okay. So they are tough, they're fearless, they're action-oriented. So normally you find them as the boss. Okay. The leaders. Maybe this is your personality. But of course, every strength has its own set of weaknesses. But let me just focus, for example, if you're a choleric, how do you motivate yourself to improve? Okay, consistently improve. You motivate yourself by focusing on the choices you can make. Cholerics normally are control freaks. They want control. They want to be on top of everything. They want to call the shots. Okay. So you motivate yourself by choosing how you will grow and stick with it. So you have control. That's how you control. That's how you motivate yourself. Okay. I'm a choleric. So I want control. I want to grow in the area of health, for example. So I want to motivate myself by choosing this and having control of my choices. Okay, so that's one example. Another one is what if you're a phlegmatic. So these are the peaceful personalities, the peace loving, the peacemaker. Okay, the what you call that? Yeah, they are the sustained. Okay, personality. So not even tempered, balanced, kind hearted, loving, but there's also a weakness for this personality, as you may have seen in the screen, uninvolving, okay, indecisive, cannot decide. Maybe some people would decide for them, unemotional and inexpressive. So if you're this type of person, again, there's no best type of personality, okay? Because we are born with a certain type of temperament or personality type. It's just a matter of knowing what's my personality type and how I can use it to motivate myself to consistently grow. So if you're a phlegmatic person, you motivate yourself by finding value in what you need to do. So you focus on the value. What's in it for me. Okay. Because when phlegmatics see the value in doing something, they can be one of the most tenacious. Okay. This is a better word for stubborn, but stubborn in a good way. Okay. They're persistent. Okay. Persevere of all the personality types. So if you're a phlegmatic, you just need to see the value in what you do. It's if it's in the area of health, then I can be with my family. I can have the quality of life that I can have. I can serve the Lord better. So because when you know the value of what you do, then you seem to stick to it. You seem to become stubborn in a good way. Okay. What about if you're um, the melancholic type of person, the perfectionist, the analytical. So they want to analyze things. That maybe these are the scientists. They are more detailed oriented. They are, they have deep commitment. They're faithful, the lawyer, dependable. But the flip side is they're lonely, they're private, they have suicidal tendencies. Okay, so these are the extreme introvert type of personality, and so on. Okay, so how do you motivate yourself? So you motivate yourself by focusing on the joy of learning details. So again, these are the detail-oriented personalities. So they would be good accountants, they would be good statisticians, they would be good scientists. Okay, because they are into details. Okay, so you focus on the joy of learning details and the potential for developing a level of master over your subject matter. Okay, so again, that's how you do it. Okay, know yourself. Okay, be aware of yourself. What type of personality do I have, and how do I motivate myself by leveraging on what will work for me. Okay. The last one is the sanguine. So these are the happy-go-lucky, the life of the party, the bubbly type. Okay, everybody once they're in the room, everybody is just having a good time. No, they're fun to be with. But also, again, on the flip side, they are forgetful, they are unreliable, they could be very demanding, superficial, that means, shallow, exaggerates, stubborn, and so on. So how do you if you're this type of person, how do you motivate yourself to consistently grow? Motivate yourself by making a game of it. So sanguines love to play, love to make fun and give yourself rewards for incremental successes. Again, so when the question is how do you motivate yourself, you go back to your personality because when you know your personality, you know what motivation will work for you best. Because we're talking about the law of consistency, you have to be consistent. Okay, you don't have to you don't give up easily, you don't quit easily. So that's how you do it. Identify your personality type or your temperament, and then try to understand who you are and understand what kind or what form of motivation will work best for you. All right. So the second thing is start with the simple stuff. Okay, you don't have to start big, okay, but start small. That's what we want to do. So in our group, when we started this 15 invaluable laws of growth, we don't want to be, a victim of, we want to be an overnight success. Okay. But we want to use what we call the snowball effect. So if you're familiar with the snowball effect, this is you start small and eventually it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and gains momentum and becomes faster. When it reaches down, it it's already a huge snowball. Okay. So it started small, but eventually it accumulates, it compounds, okay, and eventually it becomes bigger. Okay, so that's how we do it. Just start with simple stuff. Okay, now why do I need to start with simple stuff? Because small disciplines, okay, even I know you're also familiar with Atomic Habits, a book that is a bestseller. It's not about the big things, the big stuff that we do. It's about the small disciplines repeated with consistency every day that lead to great achievements gained slowly over time. Okay, small disciplines because when you do it, you become you gain confidence and you want to do more. So the third thing is be patient. Okay. Now, how many of you can say, oh no, this is something that I really struggle with? I am a very impatient person. When you're living here in Metro Manila, you have no choice but to be patient because of the traffic and the waiting time. It will really test your patience. But that the same is true with our lives, our growth. Okay. The need for consistency, because if you don't have patience, you will tend to quit. Okay, you will tend to give up easily. um just like what this quote says, all things are difficult because before they become easy. So if your mindset is, I give up easily, if it doesn't work out the first day, I quit, that's it, I give up, you're not going to accomplish things that have lasting value. So we need to realize that you have to face difficulty first. The difficulty, the change, that's what will make you grow. And you also have to understand that everything worthwhile in life takes dedication and time. Okay? So when you want to accomplish something worthwhile, when you want to do something that has of significant value, it's not easy. It will take dedication, time, sacrifice, priority, and all of that. Okay? So be patient. Okay? Nobody is good the first time. you know, many of us can relate to this. When there must be something that you are good at right now. Okay? Say, for example, you're good in playing basketball. Okay? For the men. The question is, were you good the first time you played basketball? Of course not. Okay. You weren't good the first time. Nobody is. Okay. I don't think of anyone, even when we started talking, even when we started walking, even when we started reading or writing, no one is good the first time. So even those who are the best of the best right now started out not good. Okay. But because of their consistency, because of their discipline, because of their perseverance, they were able to master whatever skill, whatever craft they have, and that's why they're good at it now. Okay? So this is something to remember. Nobody's good the first time. Okay? But everything great starts with the first step, with the first whatever. Okay? You have to start it. And don't expect that you will be good the first time. But as you continue, as you become consistent, then eventually you will grow. Right. The next thing is value the process. Now, um, this is a lifetime journey. We are not here to grow just for a year, but we want growth to become a lifetime journey. That means since it's going to be a long time, we might as well enjoy the journey. Okay? Enjoy the journey. Here you have the power of small wins. Big goals can feel overwhelming, but small wins, they create momentum. I remember the snowball effect I was talking to you about a while ago. Okay? It's not about the giant leaps. Okay? But so it's not about the miles, it's about the inches. It's about the small wins every day, consistently, that will encourage you, that will motivate you, that you will say, okay, I'm improving. I'm getting better. Okay. So small wins, and then you win again and you win more. That's how you build your success. Okay. Consistent. Okay. So what if, just like what I said, nobody's good the first time. What if you're not good and then you just stop? Okay. So there's no way for you to improve anymore because you already quit. All right. Now, here's the next thing. Do you know why you want to keep improving? This is now your why, your purpose. Now, this is what differentiates passion and purpose. Okay. So passion, or, you know, um, I always wonder why I would let me share this with you. I think for 20 plus years I was involved in um holding youth conferences. So many of you who were with us back then in Iloilo in Otonin Calvary Baptist Church. So every time we had conferences, there are emotional hypes. Passions are triggered. The intensity of emotions are there, especially when young people would like to serve the Lord and then would walk down the aisle and commit themselves to the Lord. So there's passion, there's emotional, intensity. And then the first Sunday after youth conference, they would, be in church. But, after a while, the intensity wanes, the intensity fades. Okay. So it's just for many, it's just an emotional, hype at the moment. Now, many of us are like that. Remember when every time it's New Year, we would have that, you know, New Year's resolution to go to the gym or to jog or to, exercise. So, but after January, okay, we are back to our old habits, okay, not exercising. Now, you have to know your why, the purpose. What's my purpose behind this emotion? Because that will keep you grounded. That will keep you going. It's not about the feelings, but it's my reason for doing this. So if going back to my earlier illustration, if our young people, say for example, who are attending the youth conference, would focus more on why do I want to do this, okay, rather than on the intensity of their emotions on the last night. But I want to do this because I want to glorify God. I want to grow in His Word. I don't want to waste my life. It's really focusing on the why. Then I think it has a better chance of consistency rather than pure emotions, hypes and all the emotions involved. So purpose is the reason you journey. Passion is the fire that lights your way. There's nothing wrong about passion. There's nothing wrong about the intensity of emotions. But we know that feelings are unreliable. It's here now, it's gone the next hour. So if you base your consistency on emotions, it's not a very reliable foundation. It has to be built on your why. Now, here's a simple test. I think it's found in your work book, but here's a simple test, the why test. Okay, let's go over them. Now, this is fun. So, do you constantly procrastinate on important tasks? Okay, later I'll do it. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe next week. Okay. So normally, and then cram on the last minute. So, do you constantly procrastinate on important tasks? Do you require coaxing to do small chores? I mean, small tasks you have to be pushed so that you will do it. Do you perform duties just to get by? I mean, no passion, no um, um, you don't do your best, okay, in that just to get by. Do you constantly talk negatively about your work? Grinding and murmuring and oh no, I'm so tired. I'm so uh, bored about my job. Do efforts of friends to encourage you irritate you instead? Do you start projects and abandon them? I mean, you start something and then you quit, start again, quit, start again. Do you avoid self-improvement opportunities? Now, the why test will tell you that if you answer more yes in this set of questions, then you really have to do something because you are not going to improve. So the more yes that you have in this to these questions, the more um, work, okay, shall we say, the more uh, passion or intensity that you need so that you can improve. Um, here's a story. I don't know if you've heard this. During the Sydney Olympics, there's a world-class runner from Kenya. It's an African country. And of course, Bernard Lagat was a very extraordinary runner. He runs very fast. And then after his wins, he was interviewed. An interviewer asked him how his country, okay, plenty of African countries, was able to produce so many great distance runners. With clever wit, Lagat told of the African strategy for motivating success in running. He said, "It's the road signs. Beware of lions." Okay, so I'm sure if there are lions around, you really have to outrun them. That's why when that's why he would say this wittingly, because it's their why. I mean, if I'm not gonna run faster than the lion, I'm dead. So that's their why. So that means it has to be they have to prove it. Otherwise, it will cost them their life. So that's their why. Now, again, it's very important to know your why. Why do I do this? Why do I want to improve? Why do I want to grow in this area? Because the why will keep you going. All right. Do you know when you are supposed to improve? Okay, so many of us would procrastinate and say, okay, I'll just do it tomorrow, I'll just do it next week. But when you live life for tomorrow, you will just be a day away from realizing it. That means there's no use waiting for tomorrow or procrastinating. You will never change your life until you change something you do daily. The secret of your success is found in your daily routine. Okay. Now, as you will see here, many of us are goal conscious, right? So I think I myself would also guilty of this. I'm guilty of this. We are goal conscious rather than growth conscious. I need to be there. I need to get there. I need to lose this much weight. I need to accomplish this much. But what's the difference between goal consciousness and growth consciousness? And our goal is to become growth conscious rather than goal conscious. Okay, having this growth mindset rather than, when I reach that destination, that's it. Okay? We focus on the destination, we focus on the end, but we don't focus on the growth that we get while we do it. So when you are goal conscious, you focus on the destination. But when you're growth conscious, you focus on the journey. You enjoy the journey, just like what we said a while back. Goal consciousness motivates you and others, but growth consciousness matures you and others. It's all about maturity. Goal consciousness, seasonal, but growth consciousness, lifelong. So that means it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter if you're 50 or you're 60 or you're 70. You don't stop growing. Okay. You still enjoy learning and growing. That's the growth mindset. That's growth consciousness. Goal consciousness challenges you, but growth consciousness changes you. It's transformative. Goal consciousness stops when the goal is reached, but growth consciousness, you just keep growing beyond the goal. Okay. This is more exciting. Goal consciousness, you wait for growth to come. But growth consciousness, you take responsibility to grow. You just don't wait for growth. This is what we said in our first session, intentional growth. Goal consciousness, you learn only from mistakes, but growth consciousness learns before mistakes. So you analyze, you reflect not only on your experience, but on the experiences of others as well. Goal consciousness depends on good luck, and growth consciousness relies on hard work. So it's time to move from being goal conscious to being growth conscious, having that growth mindset. Okay. And we have to consistently be productive, consistently grow. So in this slide that you are seeing now, it talks about great composers, great artists like Beethoven, Wagner, Bach, and Mozart. Um, Remember, nobody's good the first time, but they persisted. Okay, they settled down day after day. They invested their time on it, their life. Okay, that's why they consistently improve. Now, if you can see this picture here, the brown one, okay, the brown one, inconsistent large actions do not create habits, while consistent small actions do. Now, why is this important? Because it's the habit that's important. It's not the hypes and I am gonna do this, but it's the consistency that matters. Okay, consistency in doing good. Now, guys, in the last part of our discussion, our lecture, this is very important. Okay. We're going to talk about the five values of consistency. It's not in your notes, so you may want to take down notes on this one. The value of consistency. Now, if you're consistent, what happens? If you applies the law of consistency, then what happens? First, consistency establishes your reputation. Okay, reputation. That means um the saying here, anybody can be good once. Now, when you're good once, does it have an impact? Does it turn into a good reputation? Of course not. Say for example, um again, I'd like to use illustrations. You played basketball very well, but you only did it on one game. Will that establish a reputation that you're a good player? Of course not. Okay, because anybody can be good once. Maybe he just had a good day or a good weekend, or he just had a good time during that game. But what matters is your reputation. Now, can I ask you something? Can you think about this? Do you know your reputation? Whether it's a good reputation or bad reputation, when people think or remember you, or they think about you, what do they associate you with? Because more often than not, what they associate you with or your reputation is what you have been consistently doing. Okay. So, for example, oh, that person is grumpy. That's your reputation. You're not happy. You're just grumpy. You're just sad. Why do you think you have that reputation? Because you are consistent in that kind of behavior or attitude. So that's your reputation. Now, what about if you are always trustworthy? What about you are always excellent in what you do? That's your reputation. When people think about, oh, this person is always excellent in what he does. He always delivers. He always, he always exceeds my expectation. Those are the good reputation, right? So, can you think about your own reputation in your workplace? What's your reputation? Okay, in your church, what's your reputation? Because normally your reputation is what you have consistently done or consistently manifested or you have consistently shown. So again, it establishes your reputation. For example, you want to start a restaurant business, all right? And you want your restaurant to grow and to have a lot of branches and it expands. But for example, you only um, cook good food once in a while. What do you think will happen to your restaurant? Some people will say, "Oh no, this is the best, okay, spaghetti I've ever had," and then they would come back and then, "Hey, what happened here? It's not as good as what I had last time." So, do you think you will have a successful business? Of course not. It has to be consistent. You have to be consistent. Okay. So once you stop um, being consistent, then your reputation also stops. It's They used to be good. Okay. They used to be good once. That would be how they would describe you. So reputation is very important. Now think about sports or athletes who are in the Hall of Fame. This Hall of Fame. Do you think they are in the Hall of Fame because they've been good? They're good ones. Do you think they're in the Hall of Fame because they won? They've been good. They were good in one game or two games. No, they were consistent. They were consistently good. They were consistently excellent. They were consistently um, at best. Okay, that's why they are champions. They are good every time, every day. So consistency establishes your reputation. This is very important. I think we should really think about it. Not only what's my reputation now, because that's what I have been consistently manifesting, but what reputation would you like to have in the future? So if you're always um, not reliable, then that's your reputation. If the kind of work that you do is not excellent, then that's your reputation. Okay. Now, I read a story before about this Chinese general. Okay, this Chinese general, Liang. Okay, this is a very interesting story because they were in a situation where they were very hopeless. Okay, he had 100 troops, but the enemies that are about to attack the city where he was have 150,000 soldiers. How can you defeat 150,000 soldiers with 100 troops? You know what he did? He said, okay, everybody, you hide. You open the gates. Okay. We're not gonna, you know, close the gates. We open the gates. We just go on with our ordinary lives. Now, what happened? The general, the enemy, who was watching, hey, they're doing something. They're not preparing for war. The opposing general was confident that this was a trap because this General Young was had this reputation of he is a very clever, he is a very, he is very good in war, and he would defeat all his enemies with different methods. And so he had this reputation. Now, this general who was the enemy did not push through in attacking his city because he was afraid that they might fall into a trap. Why? Because of his reputation. Okay. He had so this is now what's called the empty fort strategy. And this is a classic example of the power of reputation. When your reputation is established, okay, it's very powerful. So consistency establishes your reputation. Second, consistency is a prerequisite to excellence. Okay, excellence is very important. This is what will set you apart from the rest. Okay, if you're not excellent, you're just the rest. So this is what will you will set you apart, from others. And if you are consistent in what you do, okay, good, I mean consistently good in what you do, then it will result to excellence, just like what you see, no, in the slides. Like consistency is what transforms average into excellence. Even in our lives, when we continue to practice, practice, and practice, and do it in the right way, we become excellent in what we do. Of course, you have to do it right. Okay, a right practice leads to excellence, or when you do it right. So consistency is a prerequisite to excellence, and excellence, my friends, that's what will set you apart from others. That's what will set you apart from the rest. Okay, the excellent. If you're just doing a mediocre or average, well, you're just like the rest. Okay. But if you're excellent in what you do, that's what will make you stand out. Okay. The third one, consistency provides security to others. Now, um, how do you feel when you have someone that, one day you can count on that person, and the next time you cannot count on them anymore. The next time you can, it doesn't provide security, right? Okay. But there are people in our lives that we can always count on. They're so consistent. Whatever I've done, whatever situation I am in, they just have my back. And maybe one of the greatest compliment that we can receive from someone is when that person sincerely and in all integrity would look at us straight in the eyes and would say, I can always count on you. Okay. You're dependable. You're trustworthy. Okay. You're not just a fair weather friend that leaves when it's raining or um there's not it's not a good time. Now, even in our families, right? Even in our families, if you grow up in an environment where there is no consistency, one day your parents are good, then the next time they cannot you cannot count on them. Of course, that doesn't provide security. Kids, they don't listen to words. They will never forget how consistent you are. Okay. Um, it's very important. I think most of us can relate, even if probably your dad or your mom will say, "I love you," but the next day it doesn't show. The next day it doesn't show. I mean, there's no consistency, and hence it cannot provide security to the kids. Okay, it's always good that when our kids will say, "I can always count on you, dad or mom." Okay, you always have my back. What about for example, in other areas like in a workplace? You're a worker, or even if you're a boss. Say, for example, your employee is not consistent. Sometimes he's excellent, sometimes he's not. Sometimes the work is poor, sometimes excellent. Is there security? Can you count on that person? Of course not. Or just like what I said, if you have a business, you know, in business, this is very important. Okay, I'm showing you this because branding in the brand that you buy, when you go to the grocery or when you pick up things in store, normally you have established trust in that brand because of its consistency. Okay, so this is very important in business because it provides security to others. It's very important. Again, I cannot overemphasize this because even in our own lives, okay, we feel secure when we know that people are consistently good, are consistently reliable, are consistently trustworthy. Now, this one, consistency reinforces your vision and values. Now, if you're a leader, of course, you have a vision. I don't think you're a leader if you have a vision, right? If you're a leader, you have a vision, you cast that vision, your people have to catch that vision and they have to make that vision as their own. And of course, you have your values. What's important to us? Okay, in every organization, they have the vision and they have values. But look at this, people do what people see. Even if you have a vision statement, even if you say, oh, our values are these, okay, you have the sets of values. But if people do not see it manifested in your own life or manifested in the life of your organization, they will not do it. Because again, people do what people see. However, pastors, workers, leaders, parents, there's something more important than this. And here it is. People continue to do what people continue to see. I hope you got that. It's not about just, okay, seeing it once, but the consistency of how their leaders manifest the values and the vision that they have. It's not just one time, it's not just, for a short time, consistent. That's what they will continue to do. So again, if say for example you're a pastor and um, you want your people to become soul winners. Okay, so you become you want so they have to see it. They have to consistently see it manifested in your own life and in the life of the church or your organization. Otherwise, they won't keep doing it. Okay. Now, long-term consistency trumps short-term intensity. No matter how intensity or intense you are, it's short-lived. Okay. What matters is short-term consistency. I love this quote. If you are persistent, you will get it. If you are consistent, you will keep it. Allow that to sink in for a minute. If you're persistent, you will get it. But if you're consistent, you will keep it. Do you know that there are organizations or leaders who got it, but no longer has it? They were able to reach, they were able to get their goals, but they were not able to keep it. Yes, they were persistent, but they were not consistent. So again, persistence is very important. That's how you get it. But consistency will help you keep it. And the last, this is the last, consistency compounds. Okay, it's like I'm also a professional financial planner. We teach cost averaging. If you want to have a um money, okay, a financial goal. So what do you do to reach that financial goal? One of the ways is we call it cost averaging. You just have to invest a little bit, but it has to be consistent. Okay, monthly, how much can you invest monthly so that in long term, like 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, you will be able to reach your financial goals. That's consistency because it just compounds, multiplies. Okay. Now, I'd like to um, tell you about the rule of five. Okay, this is very interesting. Guys, listen. You want to cut a tree. So the rule of five says you pick an axe. Okay, this one, that's what you're seeing now. You pick an axe, and then every day you grab that axe and you hit the tree 5 times every day. One, two, three, four, five with your axe. You drop the axe, go back inside, and the next day you do it every day. Okay. What do you think will happen to the tree after a while? The tree will fall, right? Because even if you just hit it 5 times, eventually the tree will fall. That's the rule of five. Okay. You have to be consistent. Now, this is what normally happens to people. They hit the tree one, two, three, four, five, and then the following day, one, two, three, four, five, and then oh no, it's not nothing's happening. The tree doesn't fall. They move to another tree and hit it 5 times again the following day. They move to another tree and then they move to another tree. What do you think will happen after a while, after months or years? You have a bunch of scarred trees. Okay. And that's what most people have in life. They were not able to, be successful because instead of focusing on one, they just hit everything. Okay. So all they have are scarred trees. But it's also worth noting that what about if you're not going to use the axe, you're going to use the baseball bat. What's going to happen? Do you think the tree will fall even after 2 years? You will just hurt yourself, right? You will just hurt your hands. This is the what we call the importance of having the right tools. That's why in leadership you have to sharpen the axe. Okay? You need to have the right tools. It's not about um, uh, working hard. It's about working smart. Okay, but again, the rule, the principle here is consistency compounds. Now, I'm down to my last few slides. What about your health? You know, again, I'm 50 years old now. If ever I will still be mobile and healthy in the next 10 years, it will depend on the accumulation of good or bad choices that I make every day. You have to remember that. Okay. No matter how seemingly insignificant, those good choices compound as the days. Okay. So we have to make small wins, small choices, right choices every day. Be consistent doing the right things, not doing the wrong things. doing the right things. Consistency is about doing the right thing time after time, regularly, being reliable. Okay. Of course, if you're consistent in doing the wrong things, you'll end up in trouble. If you're consistent in doing, things that are bad, it will also have a compound effect later on. But our goal is to be consistent in doing what is right. Now, lastly, I'd like to show you this verse. I love this verse, 1 Corinthians 15:58. This is Many of us can memorize this verse. Therefore, my beloved brethren, be ye steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as you know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. You know what it is? This is consistency. This is pressing on when things get tough, when you're discouraged, when you're down, when things are not going the way you expect it. You just have to be consistent, steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord. And you know what? In the Bible, I think this is consistency is actually what we call faithfulness. When you're faithful to doing something that is right, okay, even in the Bible, that's what the Lord will reward in eternity. It's not whether you started right, whether you had a hyped, uh, intensified feeling, but how well you consistently obeyed Him, how well you consistently or faithfully, how we did or um or do, did His will in our lives. That's why here I have fought a good fight, I have finished my course, I have kept the faith. So in your workbook, you have here aligning the methods of motivation with your personality. You have to do it daily, and you have to know your whys. Now, this is our group discussion questions. Okay, so before we break out into our groups, what specific areas in your life do you want to consistently grow? Have you ever thought about it? I think I mentioned this several weeks ago. For John Maxwell, it's real. Mine is like share. That doesn't have to be that, okay? But what specific areas can you share with your group? What areas in your life do you want to consistently grow? How will you motivate yourself to grow consistently based on your personality type? You must know yourself, but do you have idea how you can motivate yourself to consistently grow? And number three, what are your whys for desiring to grow in the areas you have identified? Why do you want to do it? Why do you want to grow? Why are you here attending this session? What are your whys? Because that's will keep you grounded. That's what will keep you going and persisting and be consistent in your growth. All right. So thank you for listening. Let's break out into our groups and try to answer these questions with our group mates. Back to you, Mama Iral.